Welcome to Leader You by Black River Performance Management, where we believe work should fuel the human spirit, not drain it. In this leadership podcast, we will dive into the lived experiences of people flourishing in today's workplace and beyond. Join us to hear real-life examples of experiences from our own lives and from the leaders we know and trust. Thank you for listening to the Leader You podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing on a friend and colleague and partner that I've had the opportunity to work with for about the past year and a half. And I really wanted to bring him on the podcast because I think he is what symbolizes a really open, curious, and courageous leader. And I really think he's one for the people that he works with. And I see him as a real champion in the field of pharmacy. And I just wanted to bring him on so that the listeners on the show could kind of see what he's about and how he has transformed his culture and his team, and how I got to work with him, and just really kind of get his side of the journey and really learn some of the leadership philosophies and strategies and tools that he's used to really transform the culture and really bring about change in his field and his industry. So I'm going to read his bio. Dr. Wadsworth is the Dean of College of Pharmacy and Associate Professor at the Department of Pharmacy Practice and Administrative Sciences. He previously served as Assistant Dean for Alaska programs at Idaho State University. Dr. Wadsworth has earned a Doctor of Pharmacy degree from ISU in 2002 and completed an ASHP-accredited primary care pharmacy specialist residency at the Boise VA Medical Center in 2007. Prior to his residency, Dr. Wadsworth served 4 years as a clinical pharmacist at the Chief Andrew Isaac Health Center in Fairbanks, Alaska. He's a registered pharmacist in Idaho and Alaska and has significant experience in primary care, community pharmacy, home infusion pharmacy. Dr. Wadsworth is board-certified pharmacotherapy and served primary care clinical pharmacist at St. Luke's Internal Medicine in Boise, Idaho for 9 years. Dr. Wadsworth has a variety of research interests, including obesity, diabetes, statin myopathy, QT prolonged medications, and a bunch of other medical stuff. So more recently, Dr. Wadsworth has been integral in the development and implementation of the Doctor of Pharmacy program with the University of Alaska Anchorage in Anchorage, Alaska, and serves as the administrative officer at the Anchorage campus. Dr. Wadsworth is also the principal investigator at the SetMup demonstration initiative, which seeks to mobilize community and primary care pharmacists to address current gaps in preventative and health management services available to Alaskans with diabetes and or cardiovascular disease. That is quite a bio. Thank you for joining us today on the show, Tom. All right, so thank you for listening to the Leader You podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Tom Wadsworth. As I mentioned earlier, he is an amazing leader of the College of Pharmacy. He's the Dean of the College of Pharmacy at ISU, and we've been working together for about a year and a half now, and I really wanted to bring him on the podcast to discuss what the journey's been like, what has been his perspective, what his team has said to him, and the actual culture of the department and how that has shifted, and what commitment to creating a culture where people want to be can look like if you are intentional about it.
Yeah, I like that word, intentional.
Yeah.
On purpose.
On purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess where do you want to start? You want to get into... I've been at Idaho State University for a long time, 17 to 19 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been with Idaho State University. And I'm a pharmacist by trade. And I didn't get into pharmacy to be an administrator.
Most people don't.
I like drugs. I like talking to people about drugs and helping people. And so I consider myself a clinician first.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that as a preface because my experience as a clinician has informed my leadership with motivational interviewing techniques and I had genuine compassion and empathy for the people that I worked with,
Right.
even though most of the problems were self-inflicted, related to lifestyle, and they're very difficult to change. And so over the years, as being a clinician, I gained a great, I'd say, respect and compassion for people's autonomy and their ability to choose for themselves, but also developing methods I say this to my kids. I say, well, whose voice do you listen to the most? And they go, well, you, Dad. And I go, well, we know that's not true.
Nice try.
You listen to your own voice the most. And so when you're in a clinic and you're trying to help somebody, one of the things you need to do is engage their inner voice and get that self-talk going, because if it isn't me that's going to impose a change on them, it's them that will have to do that. And my job as a clinician is to guide them, almost let them drive the car and I'm on the side and saying, well, where are we going now? And which turn are we going to make now? What if we were to turn left? Where would that take us? Getting them to explore what their life might look like or how it might be different if they make those changes. So like as a leader, I think in hindsight, I look back at that and I think I gained a lot of human skills through that clinical work, and I've been able to apply that. So pharmacist first, and then I got into teaching so that I could be a clinician at an internal medicine clinic. And then that I just developed and evolved in academia and was promoted and moved up to Alaska to start the PharmD program at the University of Alaska Anchorage in conjunction with Idaho State University. And I did that for the last 8 years. And that, of course, that put a feather in my bonnet and led to opportunities to lead. And then I came on board as the executive associate dean for the College of Pharmacy. And then when our previous dean vacated, I was named as interim dean and then later as dean.
Yes, man, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, it has been a journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Unexpected.
And you inherited a few problems.
Yeah, well,
challenges or culture, yeah.
Absolutely. And okay, so people say, well, what's going on at the College of Pharmacy? What's going on at the College of Pharmacy isn't any different than what's going on at any College of Pharmacy in the United States. Pharmacy as a discipline has undergone a tremendous change, and it's happened quite rapidly. And a lot of the things that have happened within the profession, affects us individually, but that makes those problems very difficult to solve because they're outside of your control. One of them is that we've had a declining enrollment with the College of Pharmacy, which is related to what's happening in community pharmacy practice settings where, well, to be honest, we've had the rise of the conglomerate pharmacy benefit manager, which controls pricing, and those jobs have begun to shrink, and also the morale in those jobs has gone to the gutter. And those are some unique and very extreme working conditions that people find themselves in. And that opinion of the pharmacy profession has fed into all the other sectors in which pharmacists practice. And so as we've experienced declining enrollment at colleges of pharmacy, and when I say declining enrollment, I'm not just talking like a blip, I'm talking unprecedented declines in enrollment. Last year, the College of Pharmacy here in Pocatello, we operate 3 sites, Pocatello, Meridian, and Anchorage. At all 3 sites, for a total, we admitted 41 students. We have capacity for 95. Wow. Yeah. And that's the smallest class we've admitted in anyone's recent memory. And when you look at like nationwide, that's pretty common. All the schools are under-enrolling in that way. And it's because student demand is down. The irony is that the workforce demand is up. And we now have an abundance of jobs, high-paying jobs outside of the community pharmacy sector and within it. And so we've got this kind of impasse that student demand is lagging behind the workforce demand. And everything is downstream of that morale-wise. And then we had COVID happen at the exact same time. So you get the uncertainties of enrollment added on top of the uncertainties of the COVID pandemic. And then we also had leadership change at the same time because the college had expanded to Alaska, and we were now operating 3 sites synchronously in Pocatello, Meridian, and Alaska. And that required a lot of adjustments in the way that you operate your organization. So you get all of that combined together, and the
perfect storm.
The perfect storm of uncertainty where people just don't know what's going to happen. And they begin to have problems with leadership and organizational morale. And then we had several other things happen. We had a death with one of our staff members that was a result of domestic violence, which happened right around that same time. And so just a lot of just a lot of turmoil, a lot of change all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came into the position as dean, because I had been a part of the college, I'd seen our successful years. I'd seen also the slow bleed that led to where we were at. And I was also one of the reasons that we were experiencing a lot of uncertainty because I was the one opening that campus up there. And so I got a front row seat on people's perspectives on that and the operational changes that needed to happen that weren't happening. Or maybe they were and they just weren't being, the adjustments weren't being made. So I kind of understood it that way. At the same time, I used to be a pharmacy owner. I owned community pharmacies for almost 10 years, owned and operated. And in 2019, I sold 2 of those pharmacies and closed another one. And that's what's been happening in community pharmacy. So I have this unique perspective on
Business ownership.
on business ownership. So when I talk to independent pharmacists who are struggling and they're looking at closing, I connect with them very authentically. I've earned my opinion in that way, and they see that I don't have to. They totally get it. So it was kind of like, in some ways, now I see it in hindsight. All of those experiences prepared me for a particular situation, which happens to be right now.
Yeah.
So I inherit the college at a time when we've got an all-time turnover of faculty, retirements, moving on to other jobs. And when I say all time, it was unprecedented, the number of faculty we lost in a 24-month period. And as the program shrinks and as students' enrollment declines and you start losing faculty, you can see all of the programmatic adjustments that have to be made, all of it downstream of this enrollment problem. So, and it was a problem that, although everyone knew that it was a problem nobody really wanted to tackle head on because it meant we had to admit that we were never going to be the 95 that we were. That's hard for people to split.
Ego's hard. It's hard to want to get past, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd say, well, it was the elephant in the room. Yeah. It was a pretty big elephant. I would say like the biggest elephant you can imagine sitting in the room, and it's in a ballerina and pink costume. Everybody knows it's there, but nobody's going, well, what are we going to do about this thing? There were a lot of talk about it, but from a unified leadership perspective, there wasn't really any great resolve. So I guess you were asking, what did I inherit? Well, we inherited, and I say we, it wasn't just me, but our leadership team as a whole inherited a college that had expanding operations with declining enrollment, declining budgets because our budget is directly tied to student enrollment, declining faculty members, and at the same time, a profession that was hurting and needing support from the school, and yet we were having a hard time supplying that. All of that happening at the same time. And the question is, what should we do? And when you looked at the surveys from the staff and the faculty, and we do an annual survey required by accreditation. It's put on by the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy. And it has various categories about governance, facilities, curriculum, whether you have enough staff to support, operations, research support, all of that. The past 3 to 5 years prior, those were at very low numbers, some of them all-time lows. And so we had a diminished trust from faculty to administration that was at an all-time low. We had diminished trust from faculty or staff at the same time. And here we have this complex organization where no one trusts the administration or where we're going. There just wasn't a unified vision. Yeah. So, and that's on paper. Yeah. So up till now, those are all my perceptions. When that survey comes out, it's like, oh my, no, that's real. Yeah. Like these are real problems.
Palpable. It's palpable. I got a pulse on this, on the health of this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's where we intersected because we were looking for solutions on things to do and knowing that. Well, one thing I've learned is that these challenges that we faced were not technical challenges. You've heard me talk about this. And so, try not to roll your eyes.
That's great. I love it. I want to hear a good story. It's great for the audience.
Yeah. Technical challenges, we need more students. Well, a technical solution to that is, well, let's just get more students. Well, as you can see, this was not a technical challenge. There weren't any more students to get. So these were adaptive challenges, and the adaptive challenges are different because there is no one solution that can solve them. You just can't make more widgets to increase production. It has to do with how people feel. It has to do with market pressure. It has to do with what people value and missions and strategies and things like that. All of those are very dynamic. And one of the greatest mistakes a leader can make, and you and I have talked about this, is taking an adaptive challenge and applying a technical solution. It almost never works, and it almost always makes the adaptive problem worse. Yeah, a lot worse. So we were looking for adaptive solutions, and we knew that that had to come from within. It had to come from the faculty. And in a lot of ways, there's an adaptive leadership style that informs that. And it just so happens a year before this, I had enrolled in a Master's of Organizational Leadership program, and I had learned a lot of these things in that program. And everything we were facing in the college turned out to just be a live internship. I would learn it and go, oh my, that's us. Like, oh, wow, that's our problem. So one of the things I tackled first was I just realized that we really didn't have a unified leadership philosophy. How is the college going to lead? No one could really articulate that. And I say, no leadership philosophy is a leadership philosophy. And it's not a very good one either. Right? Like it's like laissez-faire. Yeah. No leadership philosophy is a leadership philosophy. So you leaders out there, if you can't articulate how you're going to lead, your philosophical framework on how you will lead, that's problematic because you're just going off your gut.
Yeah, it's like culture, I say. It's either built by purposefully built, or by default.
Yes, exactly.
Like whatever you get, you'll just get what you get.
You just get what it feels very laissez-faire. We're going to go where the current takes us. We're going to roll that rock down the hill, and wherever that ends, that's our strategy. I just felt like that wasn't going to work. In fact, I would say, we just look in the past and go, well, has it been working for us? No, it hasn't. So one of the things I first did is articulate a leadership philosophy that then I asked my leadership team to adopt. And that remember, like I was talking about clinician, it's not something you can just impose on somebody. This is a conversation. This is like, here's what I think we can do. Here are some of the strategies we can do. And this is a philosophy that I think matches our circumstance. What do you think? Tell me how this makes you feel.
Those people on board. Giving them autonomy, which is part of that whole motivational process of basic psychological need, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's a mistrust between administration and faculty and staff, I also thought that if, telling faculty and staff how the administration believes and engages in the behaviors that we were committed to would help them understand us and us understand them, so that they didn't have to spend the next year and a half trying to figure out, what does the dean want from me? How is the dean going to make decisions? No, that's going to be clearly spelled out ahead of time, so that takes that uncertainty out of it. We already had a lot of uncertainty. We didn't need to add more. And adding a new leader with change, anytime there's change, the degree of uncertainty escalates. And I just knew that this change was sudden. There was a dean, now there's an interim dean. What do we do in the interim phase? Oh, that asks a lot of questions. So one of the ways to
seat warmer, are you going to do something? They're wondering. They're wondering too, like, what's he going to do?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's what they're wondering.
It's true.
When you're an interim, are they just going to come in and keep the seat warm, or are they going to try to change everything? Or are they going to come in and be the firer? Like, so they're waiting too. Just
what's going to happen to me?
What's the impact?
Absolutely.
And that's what they're concerned about, like survival now. And then this was your opportunity to build trust and buy-in.
And you need to get it early. And I could tell we were operating in really bad weather. And one of the things I thought we needed to do was clear the weather a bit. We needed to talk about the elephant in the room.
Yes.
To me, that was like, you solve that. Like, if we bring that out in open discussion, that will be so authentic and so genuine of an expression, like, hey, I'm recognizing what you all recognize as a problem. This is not an unknown problem. Let's finally deal with it. Why run from our problems? We're not avoiding them. They just get worse the further we run. Let's just run right into it and go, how are we going to fix this? And I think we're all at a space, and I think I said this, we're all at a space where we're ready to do whatever it's going to take because we don't want to be here anymore. Like
it's painful. It's painful, and we want some change now.
Yeah,
right?
we don't want to be here anymore. Now, I brought with me something I made for my.
I love all your visual aids that you did, and I asked him to bring them today
Yeah,
because he is the visual aid king, and I love it because it keeps stuff top of mind so that it's not something you just. This is one of the strategies I think has helped you be really successful is bringing it to everyday practice, and this is something that they can look at, like as far as whatever you're doing, you're making it easy, simple, and part of the culture where people know where to find this information, and you're referring back to it
Consistently referring back to it. It almost becomes a charter for the organization. Like, how are we going to lead? And we're not just going to put this on the shelf. We're going to continually refer back to it.
It's not a one and done. It's not a training. It's not a one and done.
It's become who we are.
Yeah, it's embedded in the fabric of the culture, the water you swim in, and the way we do things around here, which is culture.
The way we do things around here. That's right.
Thank you for joining us on the Leader U podcast, sponsored by Black River Performance Management. Leader U is an important part of Black River's initiative to bring high-quality leadership development and organizational performance improvement solutions. Leader U is one of our initiatives that features different speakers whom provide their expertise and perspectives on a variety of workplace topics. I invite you to visit our webpage at www.blackriverpm.com. That is www.blackriver, the letter P as in performance, and the letter M as in management. We offer a wide range of services from training to performance improvement, coaching, retreats, and group facilitation and strategic planning. Our focus is to assist people in better understanding how to lead effectively and impactfully through a variety of evidence-based tools and practices.
And I would commend the team because they were very open to this. They were ready. They were primed. I didn't meet a lot of resistance that way, and I didn't think that I would. I think they were ready for change. Everyone had just had enough.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, we have problems, but the problems are worse when we have to do it in the rain. And I even use this analogy, like if you've ever chopped wood, chopping wood is a lot of work. It's hard. Now add rain to it, and you're wet to the bone. Wouldn't you rather do the work with your shoes dry?
In the sun.
Yeah, and in the sun? Yeah, so let's clear the weather a bit.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure how that would happen, but my instincts told me that we needed a leadership philosophy. So I developed this, I called it the interim, charting a pathway forward. And within the first week of serving, I had this meeting with them and I ran it by them. And it wasn't, here's what we're doing. It was, here's what I'm proposing. Tell me what you think. And I think I've heard this on your podcast. The four most important words a leader can say is, what do you think? And that engages them. They go, okay, he really wants to know. Now it was like, does he really want to know? And so, you have to be open-minded. And some of my ideas, were crap. It's like, well, let's not do that.
And I do know that they are very verbal because I've got to work with the team, and they have a lot of psychological safety with you because they really do tell you. You are super good at being like, yeah, okay. And I talk, you will take the feedback. And it's you absorb it, and you're like, okay, yeah, I hear you. I can see we can do this, and here's why I'm thinking we can't, because blah, 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 blah. Like, so you acknowledge them, you recognize, you're bringing them you're making them part of the process. I'm not saying this is our plan and this is what you're going to do, stick to it, like it,
Yep.
Get in or my way or the highway. It's more like, this is a proposal and I'm open to feedback.
Let's make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I even I think we open it up and like, hey, I need you to dissent. I need to hear where it's not right or why this doesn't match, because that's what will make it better. And what I want, the outcome that we want, is something that's going to work for this organization, something that's going to work for you. So, and at the end of the day, the thing that we come up with, the plan that we come up with isn't mine, it's ours.
Yeah.
And that
buy-in is huge.
Exactly. Buy-in is huge. And, I felt like we needed a participatory culture. We needed one in which people understood how decisions are made, that there was a process fairness in that, that their leaders will hear them, and that they can expect their leaders to have to explain their decisions to them. And that's a very different, like you've said before, that's not common in higher education.
It's not.
Where a leader makes a decision and then tells them, I feel responsible to then explain to you why I made that decision and hear your objections. Honestly hear them and then take into account. That's different than outcome fairness in that, where there's a fairness in outcome. It doesn't guarantee they're going to get the outcome. What it guarantees is that they will be heard, that they will understand how decisions are made. They will have an influence on how decisions are made. And once you find that once decisions are made following process fairness, that's a pill people can swallow. When they're excluded.
Nice.
Yeah, you like that? That's my drug addict.
People can swallow.
That's right.
I love it.
That's right. It's one they can swallow and not one that will cause nausea at the end, Yes. So, yeah, I mean, that really worked. And as we went, I would get affirmation that these things were working. So, and we would just pivot. I viewed this as an iterative process.
Week, okay.
That was first week. Yeah. And from that, and I'll just show this. I think the one thing I did was I helped them develop a leadership philosophy. And I'll just show that little, I think I got it on here.
Oh, and you have the 4 horsemen. You have all kinds of good stuff.
Oh, yeah, I got all sorts of stuff in here. It was, we're going to define a leadership philosophy. And I told them, I'm this kind of a leader. This is what I am. And I worked on this. This was something I gave a lot of thought to. Yeah. And when you read it, it's that I'm authentic. I want to be authentic. And when I'm not, I can feel it. And, they can feel it too. People sniff out a phony. It's easy.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to sell a car, you're not going to want to buy one from me because I don't give a damn about selling cars. And I cannot fake that.
Yeah.
With pharmacy and education, and I believe in it.
Yeah.
And I believe in what they can do. I believe in the mission that we have, and I believe in it deeply.
Yeah.
I don't have to fake that.
Yeah.
And I asked them, you have that too. Use it. Let's use that authenticity to give us some strength. And one of the things I learned is that a leadership philosophy rooted in authentic leadership inspires people. And in times of uncertainty, people need inspiration. They don't need answers. They need inspiration. They need to know they can keep moving forward. And, the very definition of, success in that framework is moving forward despite the uncertainty. And I've used those words a lot. We're going to continue moving forward despite all of these uncertainties. I don't know what the answer is, but I know we can't stay here.
Yeah.
Where we go will be up to us, but we are going. We're going somewhere.
Help me navigate.
Help me now. That's right. Yeah. So and I taught them that, and we developed a leadership philosophy, and I'll put this on the screen here, and this is my little graphic of it. But it's rooted in authentic leadership, and then applied several other leadership philosophies, so that we could develop what I would call leadership behaviors. And then I developed a charter for that with their input on what we could tell the people that work with us. These are our leadership behaviors. This is what we will do and what we will not do.
What we will do and not. So this is who we are going to be. This is your culture. You're defining it together.
This is who we are. That's right.
This is what our team's going to look like. And when you have that, that's called high organizational citizenship behaviors, right?
Yeah.
So like when it's on a team or in an organization, when you are functioning well and the culture is good, you don't have to do it as much as the leader because they'll call themselves out.
Yeah.
If you're not being a part of the team or doing the work, or you're not speaking up in meetings, but you're taking it to the water cooler, your team will actually call you out and be like, "Hey, remember we just said we're not going to do that? That we're going to work." And so it takes a lot of the work off of you, but it takes a lot of work up front
to get there.
There. And I think a lot of people skip that step because they think, "I just got to do this." They get busy in the weeds, and they don't look out and go, let's put a lot of intention in the beginning part, because you really are training people how to treat you, how to be, how to show up, and what this culture, and when you're co-creating a culture, it's so much more impactful because people, they're involved, they're invested, and they feel valued, they feel heard, they feel seen. And that is how you actually drive change, versus just this is what's happening.
Exactly.
And here's how you're going to do it.
Yep. Exactly.
And you're finding out you're actually slowing down so that you can speed up, because you're asking the people.
Like
yeah, you got to slow down.
You got to slow way down. Yeah.
So that down the road you'll be able to ask the questions or find out that this isn't going to work because it's going to impact this person here and we haven't thought that through yet. Sometimes we go way too fast and then we get to that part and go, oh, wow, we didn't think of that. And then you have to start back over again.
Absolutely.
Slowing way
like
down.
I'm going to use that. That's pretty good. I like that. You got to slow down so that you can go faster later.
Yeah.
I think I think that characterizes exactly what we did. We kind of just broke it down and like, let's just focus on leadership. We're not going to solve the enrollment problem tomorrow. It's not going to happen. But what we can do is create an environment, a culture where we can start moving towards in that direction.
And attract people that will want to work on that team. Exactly. We're going to want to be in that space.
Yeah.
So how did you ask them, what was the next steps? Like, we're going to do a retreat, or did you ask them to be a part of that? How did you figure that out?
Well, we normally do, we normally do a fall, faculty retreat right before, but I knew we didn't have the fall to wait for. We had some work to do with each department, and especially you couldn't wait 3 months until we had that. So I called an emergency retreat, and I think this is where you and I came in. Yep, that's right. We started working together, where then I got the buy-in from our leadership and also had them help me hone this in. And I can tell you, we have a lot of smart people, skilled people on our administrative team that have a lot of experience. And, being able to leverage that in behalf of the organization took unifying the administrative team so that everybody's working together. They can speak freely, they can dissent, we can make it better. And what we ended up with was a plan that we would then take to the faculty. And I did it by department. And, I think about how that went. And I'll be honest with you, I was super nervous.
I was too, because we talked before. We had talked before, and I was like,
oh, this is going to make things worse, or it'll help us clear the air. But one of the things is that people inside of an organization that have had a lot of hard things happen, and you think about, I don't think it's hard for people to understand this. We all experience COVID very differently. Yeah. Maybe somebody got sick. Maybe nobody got sick, and you're like, why in the heck? We shutting this place down. Maybe you lost your job, whatever it might be. Everybody experienced something a little bit differently. And when you jump in with a presentation, and this is where my clinic background came in, I knew that if I tried to tell them, this is your problem, this is the experience you had, I would be invalidating half the room most of the time.
Right.
And so you can't do that.
Yeah.
So you needed a way to engage people's inner voice, particularly when you're dealing with hard things, so that their voice is telling them what their experience was. They see themselves in it.
Yeah.
And I don't have to say what it is. And my brother, this is a little bit weird, but my brother is a social worker. He's an LCSW, licensed clinical social worker. And I asked for his advice. And I told him about the group, and he said, it sounds like your group's been through a lot of trauma. And I was like, yeah, that's the word, trauma. And he says, well, when we're working with trauma patients, you can't just tell them what happened. They know what happened. He's like, but you also have to, the trauma patients tend to tether themselves to the bad experience. And so you've had anything bad, you can think of it as your leg is tied to a post. And they have a really hard time moving away from that, even though that's the best thing for them is if they stay there, they just keep reliving the trauma and they got to get out of that space. So he actually gave me something that he uses in therapy sessions. He gave me the story about the boy, the horse, the mole, and the fox.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and you can see it on Disney. It's free. It's a short little bit, but it's about a boy who's lost, and he meets a little friendly mole who's their little buddy, and one day they get chased up a tree by a fox, and the fox is trying to eat him. And then they escape, but later on in the day, they hear the fox yelping off in the distance. And so they make their way, and when they get there, they see the fox is stuck in a trap. And his leg's stuck, and the fox is like furiously running around this trap in a circle. And you can see, the print where he's been running, and he's furious, he's angry, he's hurt, he's all of those things. And the mole, with the deepest compassion, was like, we need to help that fox. And so he approaches the fox to cut the tether, to cut the line. And as he approaches the fox lunges at him, and the only thing that stops him is the trap. And he's face to face with the mole, and he sneers and he growls and he says, if I wasn't in this trap, I would kill you. And the mole says something to the effect of, with the greatest compassion, he says, oh, Mr. Fox, but if you stay in that trap, you're going to die. Let me help you. And he softens, and the mole cuts the trap, and the fox runs free. Later on, they become friends. I told that story. That was the first story I told when I said, hey, we need to acknowledge that everyone is in this room has had a different experience. I don't know what the trap is for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I know what it is for me.
Yeah.
I know that all of us have experienced something, but I can't say what it is. But what I can tell you is that if we stay here, we won't do well.
Yeah.
We'll die.
It's not
where we go. I don't know, but here is where we have to leave this space somehow.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was palatable, like the goosebumps in the room and the symbolism of it really engaged people's own inner voice. And it was like this pause. And I was like, did we get it?
Mm-hmm.
Are people in the space I was hoping they would get, so that we can start having change talk? And I don't know if you remember, I looked over at you like, uh-oh, it was quiet.
Like a mole. You could hear him.
But you heard sniffles.
Yeah, you did.
You heard tears, and people really started to feel it. And then we did some, what you might say gimmicky stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest with you, symbolic things really help.
They do.
What I did is I passed out pens that were invisible or disappearing ink, and then pieces of paper. And I said, right now, I want to spend some time. And I think I turned on some cheesy music.
Yeah.
And I was like, right now, I want you to write down on your pad what you want to leave behind. What do you want to get rid of? Mm-hmm. And it's different for everybody. This is disappearing ink. No one will ever see this again. Mm-hmm. Then I want you to write it down, crumple it up, and stick it in this. I had a piñata that was shaped like a COVID virus.
It's a ritual. It's a
ritual. It was like a ritual.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very ritualistic.
Yeah.
And people wrote it down. They stuck them in there. And after they were done, I had gotten some pharmacy artifacts and had them each come up and select an artifact and said, I know these don't have meaning, but today I'm asking you to give this meaning. Mm-hmm. Whatever you felt today, whatever you gave away today, whatever resolve you had to move away from this space, let this be a symbol of it, and put that on your desk, wherever you're at. Remember, these people are in Anchorage, Meridian, Pocatello. And I'm like, and what you'll know is every one of us have these on our desk. Mm-hmm. Every one of us lived an experience. This means something to all of us. When you see that on your desk, let you remember this moment. Mm-hmm. And then we went out and we beat the crap out of that COVID virus pinata. And you should, whoa, people were killing this thing. Yeah. Like, whoa, there was a lot of pent up energy there.
Lots of people experienced watching a lot of death, right?
Yeah.
A lot of you had a lot of experience.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I told you we're coming off of the murder of one of our colleagues, and I mean these are really hard things.
Yeah.
I can tell you what I wrote down in there, but I was happy to see it go. And I hit that piñata, and we were watching candy and old, pieces of paper that are wadded up, spread everywhere. And then after it was done, I said, gather on, let's pick up this candy. And then we picked up the papers, and I opened them up, and I say, see, they're gone now. Mm-hmm. They're gone. And I hold them up. We can leave this space. Then we went right from that back into the meeting where we talked about what's our plan. What are we going to do from here? Mm-hmm. And it just seemed to clear the weather enough now that we could have a conversation about that. Had we ignored all of that past trauma, all of those past experiences, we never would have got to that space to have that conversation. And then that led to the activity that we did where we had everybody do a disc that says what their strengths are, and you could say better what discs are. I'm not very good at explaining it, but in particular their communication styles, because I knew that we were going to have to improve no matter what we did. Mm-hmm. With adaptive challenges, it's a lot of talking, a lot of communication,
a lot of emails,
a lot of conflict,
a lot of different locations, lots of different styles, and a lot of different perceptions, not of just how you see things, right? So you didn't just do DISC, you did DISC, and you did driving forces, and you did emotional intelligence, and then we did a year of different workshops where you brought in HR as well, and you brought in some subject matter experts from the college, like I think there was like some on bias. I think you had somebody on.
Yeah, so we got all this work to do, but like we said before, you can't hit this stuff once and then walk away and go, problems are solved. Trauma comes back around.
Yeah, training solved, or we did the training. That's what it's not that. It's embedded. It's micro sessions and drips, just like if you were teaching pharmacy. Yeah. You don't give them a fire hose and be like, now you're pharmacists. You have to literally do it over time and consistently and keep going back and integrative learning and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think with your help and Carrie Steed over at Human Resources at ISU, we developed a year-long, what we called Human Development, Professional Development Series. And once a month, we would have a 1-hour topic that everyone was, asked to come to. And it would be on a subject like this. It could be about, microaggressions or finding inner peace, how to do that, meditation techniques. We talked about discrimination and the different types of discrimination and how people experience that and the intersectionality of people's experiences and how that needs to be accounted for when you make decisions. And so there's like a wide variety of topics, but we did it consistently, and I'm using that word on purpose, consistently doing that over and over. And then we would reintroduce. So you would come, I think you came 2 or 3 different times where we then reintroduced.
Yeah, I came back in full circle. I think I was there 6 times over the 6 months, but I had bigger ones, like 2 retreats. I want to say.
Yeah, two
retreats. So one on the summer, one in the fall.
We did it with staff again.
Yeah, 2 retreats and then longer sessions. I think I had 3 shorter 1-hour sessions, but then we had some couple-hour ones. But literally, I think there was a lot. You created a communication book from it as well.
Yeah, one of the things that became clear to me is like we needed to take what we were learning and start actually using it, and it needed to become a part of us. And I put together, it's called Becoming a Conflict Competent Team. And we did a whole presentation. It was one of the development sessions where we paired it with, and this is something, I don't think you've even seen this yet.
I did. I
Have you seen this?
I love it.
Yeah. So we took the reports we were getting about people's communication styles and we made it available to people. And it's just one little piece of that assessment, but it's one of the most important pieces. It says, okay, here's the person's name. And it says ways not to communicate with them, ways that they prefer being communicated with. And then it gives you, kind of their strengths and who they are. And so what we did is we paired this conflict management kind of, education with this and asked people, well, when we have conflict, and there's different types of conflict, process and task conflict are good for our organization. We need them. So when we have a disagreement on how things should be done or what should be done or who should be doing this task versus that, the good old fashioned, hey, when when new orientation is coming on, who's the one that's supposed to send the new faculty member blank blank? Somebody has to decide that.
Yeah.
Those are good old fashioned conflict that if you deal with it, it makes you better. And so we use that in the training to say, well, what are the types of conflict? When you don't deal with process and task conflict, it becomes interpersonal conflict generally. That's never beneficial to the organization. It's toxic. It contributes to a toxic work environment, hostility, and all of that you can think of that goes with that. And they were very familiar with what that looked like. So this was like,
I don't want to get into that anymore.
And then it was like, okay, here's the anatomy of a conflict. There's a slow buildup, and then it happens, and there's a pivot point, and then there's So we went all through that, and I just created a little flip chart for them that I asked them all to keep on their desks. And when they experience conflict, in order to keep the conflict in the conflict continuum, where it's healthy conflict that makes us better,
that sweet
somewhere
spot.
in here. And you had to acknowledge too, and some people heard me say this when I wasn't trying to say it, so I always reiterated, I'm not saying we can't have conflict. Sometimes when you say we need to make sure conflict stays healthy, they hear you say, no conflict, please. But we know that that's artificial harmony, that's fake, it's almost worse than conflict.
Yeah, it is.
In fact, I would say that's where we came from. We had a problem that we would not recognize.
That's where marriage ends too.
That's where marriages end. So we'd say, hey, we got to keep your conflict in the healthy zone and stop and don't go to personal attacks. And then give them some methods of how to do that. We call it the STLC, the stop, think, listen, communicate. And then I ask them when they have it to pull out the person who they may be having difficulty communicating with the conflict and just review. What are the most effective ways to communicate with that person? Look at yours. What is the most effective way for you? And if everyone in the party is doing that, what that does is moves us in the direction of having productive conflict.
Yeah, and gaining awareness. Just self-awareness. Yeah, which is the first step of emotional intelligence, right?
It is, yeah.
And so So collectively, I would say over the year, I noticed that your whole group's emotional intelligence rose. They got
absolutely.
Way more aware of themselves. They were sponges, and what I love is they're scientists, right? So they took this stuff and they were like, they were hungry.
Yeah.
They were hungry for it. So part of it is the leadership, but part of it is that the team that you had
was
ready to receive, and they were ready to do something different, and they knew that they get to be part of the creation of it.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's anybody on maybe your leadership team that your styles are completely opposite and you noticed, oh, wow, that's why we're...
All of them, right? Yeah. And actually, you learn a lot about yourself. And I'd say what I learned the most is about me.
Yeah, right.
That I have red flags, that I have confirmation bias built into who I am.
Yeah.
And I need the rest of my team, who are very different than me, to be able to call me out and feel comfortable doing it. And I need to be in a space where I'm humble enough to hear that.
Yeah.
And so, and I just straight out, we've had conversations where I just straight out tell the leadership team, I think these are my weaknesses. I think these are my blind spots, and I need you to tell me, do I have other blind spots that I am not aware of? And up till now, I think they feel very comfortable saying, yeah. And some of it's like, oh, that really hurts.
Yes.
But you go, yeah, but if I'm honest, you're right.
There's some truth.
There's truth there. That's why it hurts. Yeah. Because it's true.
Yeah, and but it's such a gift too. It really is a gift when you get that feedback, because you'd never be able to do better if you didn't know.
No, if you don't know if something's a problem, then how can you do anything about it?
Yeah.
So, and we say that a lot on our team. We need to be more, more emotionally intelligent as a team to understand how we feel. What are our social skills? What's our self-awareness? Do we have empathy and compassion for each other? And then from that, we were able to move into that space where we built actual rules of behavior for meetings.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised what those rules are. But, we assume that everyone in the meeting comes from a place of good intention.
Yeah.
That they're not trying to burn the college down. They're trying to make it better. Yes. And that we should all assume that about each other. And that's another step in the right direction in having productive conversations. So we have a whole list of behaviors, and the team built it. I said, here are the behaviors. Shall we add or subtract? And they added. And again, at every meeting, I display that just to remind ourselves, these are our meeting rules of conduct and behavior.
Yeah.
Remember, we want dissent, but we need to avoid it getting into the incivility zone and make sure we're dealing with process and task conflict. And we do it quite quickly, but it always changes the tone of the whole meeting. Because like you said, they self-monitor, they monitor each other. And we haven't had what I would call an uncivil meeting since we've introduced those things. I can't say that they haven't have had conflict. We've had many.
Yeah.
Where people walk out and are like, man, that was a tough one. But we immediately stop and go, yeah, but remember, it's because of a task or a process. It's not because this person has it out for us.
Yeah.
And that has allowed us to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I noticed, and on your agendas, you even attach this to
your
virtual meetings. So in the Zoom meetings, it has a link to the communication guide. So he also encouraged everybody to, before you get on this meeting, and there's a few people that you're going to be discussing, like, keep in mind how they prefer to be communicated with. Like, are they slower? Are they faster paced? Do they like spreadsheets? Or they want to hear a story? I know you're going to want to tell a story.
I'm going to tell a story. And some people in the room, they go, he's going to tell another story. Yeah. And I have to go, yeah, I am. I'm sorry. But at the same time, one thing we learned in this whole exercise is that some people make decisions very quickly.
Yeah.
Some people need a lot of time to make decisions. Some people are very optimistic. Sometimes overly optimistic. And that can be a problem.
Yeah.
Because they go, wait a second, you're taking risks that you shouldn't be taking because you're not seeing the danger. And we help each other as a team to kind of check and balance each other. And just an awareness of that, I think it's really helped. And I can think of several examples where I saw it in real time and about hit my jaw dropped. I'm like, if that had happened 2 years ago, this thing would have blown up like a powder keg.
Yeah.
But instead, people checked themselves.
Yeah.
And I even had people say to me, when I said, hey, I heard about this happened. Tell me about that. And they go, yeah, it did happen. And it did make me feel good. And I was pretty angry about this or that. And then, but I remembered you said we got to keep it in the healthy zone. And so I was like, okay, well, yeah, this really has to do with process and not me. So, and I was like,
it's working.
It worked. Yeah. And people come to me and said that they really, these things they like, they like this, even though there are some people who this kind of stuff just makes their skin crawl, that's okay. And we need to acknowledge that. And I go, hey, I realize that this stuff feels warm and fuzzy to some people. And I'm like, that's okay.
But we are a learning culture.
We still got to do it.
We still are learning. We still are continuously learning and going.
Yeah. Some people don't like hugs.
Yeah.
But I could tell you.
You're not going to
hugs go a long way sometimes, even if you don't want one.
And they raise your oxytocin. So
that's right. That's right. Some people don't like exercise, but every time you do it, you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
You just will. It's a fact. Same thing here is like this might make you feel, give you the, like, oh, these are cooties. But at the same time, I think people all go, yeah, but it has made us better. It's put us in a better space. Has it solved our problems? No. Problems exist. Yeah. But now it's not raining as much.
We have tools.
We got tools.
If you're a fisherman, right? So it's hard. It's hard to go out fishing without the proper tools. And I think about leadership or just knowing yourself and being a self-leader. If you don't have the proper tools for your toolbox, for your journey, how would you even be very successful? And these soft skills or human skills are more important than the actual skills of the job. I mean, you talk to your TAC committees. What do they want? You can teach people to be a pharmacist and to count pills and measure it and know what it's about. But what do they really want? They want somebody who can show up, who can make decisions, who can have difficult conversations, who can hold people accountable, who can not take everything personal. Right? Like those are the human skills that they need, that they're lacking.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, the work is still there, but these are adaptive challenges. And so it's like, when the cats need a bath, but cats don't like dealing with problems, and people are the same way. I'm the same way. Nobody likes to deal with a problem. If you think about that hard conversation, you should have a visceral reaction to that if you're normal.
Yeah.
I'm terrified to have this conversation. You should. And we all avoid it.
Yeah.
And that's what we had been doing with a lot of things. And just knowing that these are adaptive challenges, the leader's job is not to solve the problems for them, but to keep people engaged on what is important. Focus on what's important. Get back in that bathtub and let's have this discussion. We're going to figure this out. And when the cat jumps out of the bathtub, we gently, no, back in, and it's okay. And there's going to be some scratch marks.
Sure is.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's okay. The leader's job in adaptive leadership is to help give the work back to the people, have them focus on what's important, keep reminding them that remember what's important, and then making sure they're addressing the problems. And then this is the most important part, managing the distress that's associated with solving those problems. And there's a lot of distress. And if you go into it knowing that this is going to be hard, there's going to be distress, I need to make sure I'm showing up that way for the people I'm leading. They will begin to trust you and know that they can come to you when they're feeling distress, and then they can go back in and start doing the work again. Because the distress is what keeps them from doing the work.
Yeah. And then they procrastinate.
Yeah. And gosh, when I learned that is a powerful concept, and I can tell you that it works. It's not easy. You get bruised sometimes, and sometimes you have to have hard conversations, but at the same time, we can do that now without having, interpersonal conflict turning into, me against you kind of thing. No, It's like, well, what's best for the organization? No, well, how do we figure this out so everyone benefits? It's that kind of thing. So
I love it. I love all the tools that you're sharing with your team. So what you had the survey when you started the whole process, what you inherited, you talked about the satisfaction ratings. And so after about a year and a half with all the work that you've put in, that HR put in, that we put in, like what did you hear in the next set of surveys?
Yeah. So you could feel the change. I could feel it. But, you go, well, yeah, but is it really changing things?
Yeah.
Or am I just seeing things rosy? Yeah, because remember, that's one of my weaknesses is I'm overly optimistic. I go, oh, this is working.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not working.
Yeah.
Maybe the door is closed and people go, this is not working. So I was really interested to see what the response was on the staff and faculty survey results. And they did that around, I think it was around April that we did it. And we had almost 100% response rate. And some of the numbers that we got when we look at, and I'm looking at it now, but administration and governance, faculty development and performance, infrastructure, curriculum and teaching assessments, all of those, they went up, and they went up in big jumps. So they went from in the low 20% to the 90s, 95, 98%. Those are huge jumps.
It's unheard of.
And when we look back at history, we go back, and I think I'm looking at the last 7 years, it's the highest it's ever been. And then you add to that during some of the most difficult times we've had to encounter. Mm-hmm. And so, when I read these things like the dean is aware of my problems, or the administrative team functions as a unified team, that went from 23% to 96%. Now, when I saw that, I was like, can that be right? I mean, that I was hoping for a 5% increase, maybe 10, and this is where, I think I said this, I'd prefer to be a pole vaulter where we just jump a little bit higher than it was the last time. We could win the gold medal 100 times, but we got one big jump.
Yeah.
Now I'm aware that there's some honeymoon in here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest, that's the truth. And I regard this, and I've said this to my team, this isn't mission accomplished. And we could really lose ground if we walked around going, oh, all our problems are solved. Yeah. No, what this did is it says what you're doing is in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And our business officer, who I respect tremendously, saw these results, and he said, well, this doesn't surprise me, but he said, what makes this exceptional and what you're doing is that this is in the same year that you cut, almost $1.6 million from the budget from an organization. And he's like, that generally doesn't happen. You cut budgets, morale goes down, not up, or trust goes down, not up. And so, he added to that the difficulty and the situation we were in. I would add to that, too, that I think we've always had a really good bunch of people. I've always thought that. I admire our faculty. These are my friends, my colleagues, my mentors. I try to be like them. I learn from them all the time. And I knew this was in them. I just knew it was. They just needed a different pathway to get there, and they did it together. And I think I look at this and go, this isn't Tom's success. This isn't just the administrative team's success. This is the college's success. When we looked at the staff surveys, we had the same jumps. Mm-hmm. They were major jumps. Mm-hmm. Now, the bad news is it's downhill from here. I mean, it's going to get worse. That's okay. And I've said to people, let's regard this as a cool breeze on a hot summer day. Mm-hmm. It feels good, but it's not going to last. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't change the fact that we still have a lot of hard work ahead. We still have our accreditation and our self-study and things that we're working on that are really hard things already. Mm-hmm. But now we've got tools. Now we've got the weather's a little bit better.
You got a map.
Got a map. We know where we're going. Yep. And we're really moving away from this nasty space that we were in. And it took a lot, but it just affirmed, that this stuff isn't just gimmicky.
No.
It works. And the science shows that. I mean, you read it and go, when you do process fairness, even though people don't get what they want, they actually stand up and defend the administrator's decision or the company versus just giving them severance pay and say, walk away and I'm not going to give you an explanation. Those people come back and sue the company. Mm-hmm. So you see that in data, but this is a lived experience now. Yeah. We've seen it. We still have a lot of work to do on culture and, keep moving in the right direction. But I also think too, it's nice to not be in a space where we're always doing family counseling. It's like, now we can start, instead of just fixing things all the time, which seems like what we were doing, we can get back to dreaming again.
Yeah. And dreaming big.
Yeah, dreaming big. Where can we go now? Mm-hmm. It's like, you can't remodel the house when the dishes haven't been done in 2 or 3 years. I mean, the cockroaches alone.
Do you remember the activity we did with them for dreaming when we did headline news?
I do remember
headline news, and everybody had their headline, and they got to whatever it was. The sky was the limit with budget and everything, and I think they really enjoyed that. I love seeing the passion that they have for their profession.
Yeah,
some of them. I did this in Alaska too. When we
I heard about this
because this worked out to be where one of your people who's on the Alaska Pharmacy Board, loved what she learned through what you brought in, and she brought us up there. And so it's been a great, I've got to work with a lot of pharmacists now. And I actually really love it because they love the science, they love learning, they love continuous education. They're mostly intellectuals. They love that continuous growth. But I think when they had that opportunity to dream big, like, it was so cool to see. Some of them ended, sexually transmitted diseases. Some of them ended, like, they went through so many things. It was just incredible to watch. And you could see how much passion they have for the work that they do and the challenges that come with it, from insurance to, you want to talk about the bureau thing?
The pharmacy benefit managers.
Pharmacy benefit managers. Yeah. So that's all, like, a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes that people wouldn't know about. But I just think that you have a lot of caring people. I mean, obviously they got into pharmacy because they care about people's health.
Exactly.
And
they're
well-being.
people too.
They're people. Mm-hmm.
These are not people like married to a benchtop. They're out in front. They enjoy helping people, and they're passionate about it. And these are faculty members who are making less than what their colleagues that are making industry, a lot less in many instances. And that tells you the resolve of their passion, like rearing, the future of pharmacy and impacting the practice and finding ways to increase patient access and improve patient care. And those things they're passionate about. And I can tell you, we've got world-class faculty at the College of Pharmacy. The things that they're able to do, the things that they've done, is jaw-dropping. And you just go, whoa, that is awesome. And what they've been able to change in the regulatory space. And I just know if we could get to a space where we weren't always having to do, like I said, family therapy or whatnot. We could start dreaming again. We could get back to doing the things that inspire us. People want to do work that's inspiring, particularly this group.
Yes, for sure.
Wants to do things that are important.
Yeah.
And we need to get back to doing that.
Yeah, and I do see that, and the work that they're doing, and they're reinvigorated, I think, and inspired. Like, they've got some new clean gas in their tank.
Yeah, they got some energy, and exactly. Yeah, a new resolve, more inspiration, hope. I mean, the trust is better, And there, like I said, there's still things to do, but there's a way forward, and I think we've been able to move forward, despite the uncertainties that have remained.
Yeah.
Some of them even amplified, gotten worse.
So you've given a lot of great leadership tips, and so what I'd like to ask here at the end is, what's some of the worst leadership advice you've ever gotten?
Yikes! One time, God bless my dad, but he wants to, and my brother laughed no end about this. My brother had a bird. Was in a cage, we must have been 16 or 17. Yeah, some stupid, I think a canary or something.
Okay.
And not a good animal guy, and he wanted the bird to get on his, hand, and the bird never would. And so out of frustration, he whacks the cage and says, "You dang bird." And my dad, without missing a beat, whacks him on the shoulder and says, "Son, we don't teach by hitting." And we all paused. And you can see the look on his face, like, yeah. I mean, and you say, well, I don't know that that's bad advice, but he showed us, you got to walk the walk.
Yeah.
You got to talk the talk. You can't just say, often what you are is much louder than anything you can say. I mean, you know that.
Yes.
Everybody knows that. You can tell your kids all day long to exercise and do blank, blank, blank and have healthy, living hygienes, things that will make them happy. And if you turn around and don't do that, it doesn't matter how much you say it.
Yeah.
What you are is much more louder than what you can say. I would think too, like, just having a what you might call a patriarchal or a mandate, like, you're the dean, Tom. You can make that decision. You should just make that decision. And I know what's downstream of that style. I just don't. I don't want to go there anymore. And I'm not saying that's bad advice. I think maybe there are leadership, situations. Maybe that's appropriate.
Or somebody's on the life
conducting a war. Yes, like things like that.
There's things that you might want to be like, get in line, do the thing now.
Now.
Yeah.
Yes, and there is no dissent allowed here.
Yes.
You will not question. I just don't think the industry we're in warrants that.
Yeah.
I think we should, the leadership,
people.
Every one of these people could be that leader.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. I'm well aware of that. We have very capable, educated, intelligent people. They all could be doing this. I want to know what they think. And, I'm not infallible. I know that. And I need them to know that too. There's a vulnerability there that needs to be there. So I don't know if that's bad advice. I just think it's a leadership model that doesn't really apply to higher education or to even in corporate world. I think the more we do it, the more we find it just doesn't work. People don't want to work for somebody like that.
No. Nope.
They're not inspired by it. They don't want their autonomy taken away. And I think my brother told me this. He was the LCSW. He was talking in regards of how do you know if you're disciplining your children correctly? And he says, well, there's the 3 R's. It needs to be reasonable, it needs to be respectful, and it should be restrained. And I think that, okay, sure. So think about when Johnny spills the milk and you ground him for 6 months. Well, that's not reasonable. Or if you make that decision when you're angry, that's not restrained. So I think that, you can apply that to leadership too. You should ask yourself, is what I'm doing reasonable? Is it respectful to people? Does it maintain their dignity, who they are? And is it restrained? Am I making these decisions with a lot of emotion?
Man, just shout that out to the world right now, please.
Yeah.
Because right now there's not a lot of human dignity and respect. And those are some of the things that I really feel like, I don't care who you vote for or what you do, but we need to literally have common decency and respect and dignity for one another and not brag in each other's faces, not be divisive, not be just disrespectful. I mean,
like John Gottman, marriage expert at the University of Washington, research based, so if you've ever been married, it's about relationships. He's got these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that he talks about, and it's contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling. These 4 communication styles, and if those become predominant communication styles within your marriage, they end. Well, when I was going to marriage counseling, and I was reading about this, like, oh yeah, she's got a lot of contempt. This one, she's like, it was all her,
Never yourself.
Yeah, and I remember the therapist was like, Tom, you are really good at this stuff about the 4 horsemen. That's great. She's like, but you know what? Have you ever asked yourself, those are the things that destroy marriages. Have you ever asked yourself what builds them? What makes them stronger? And I was like, actually, no. Is there a chapter on that? I should read that. Yeah, she gave me an article. You know what it is? It's 2 things. It's called kindness and generosity. And you go, well, yeah, you should be nice to your spouse, or you should be nice and generous to them. And, sure, you make them a plate of cookies every now and then you maybe fold their socks and put them away. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about kindness with your time, generous with your patience. And those are very different things.
Yeah.
And so when your spouse is doing something that's really irritating, are you kind and generous with the way that you tolerate that? And so we took that and applied it to our group and said, no matter what we do, I'm asking you to be kind and generous with people wherever they're at. And I think given what you just said, I think we could all use large doses of that.
Oh, yeah.
Kindness and generosity. Put yourself in their shoes. You don't have to agree. You don't have to be their friend.
Yeah.
But should we really, can we be kind with our patients? Can we be more generous with our tolerance with each other? I think absolutely. More restrained in that way.
Yeah.
Sure. I think that's healthy.
And that's what a real adult does. As you get older and more wise and you become more emotionally intelligent, hopefully you're not getting worse.
Responding to your instincts, which tend to be base. Yeah. And I'm reminded of a phrase that someone told me, and I think it's true. Life is good if you live in such a way to make it so. Which tells me there is a way. Everyone can be incrementally happier than they are today.
Yes.
Science shows that. Positive psychology shows us that. There is a way for you to be happier. And it's some of the things that you discount. And they're actually quite simple. And because they're simple, the easiness of the way, becomes the barrier. When in reality, the barrier is the way, and that's the Stoic.
That's the Stoic philosophy. Thank you, Ryan Holly.
We just brought it all the way around. That's right. Good book.
Good book. The ego is the enemy.
Yep, that's right.
All of his books.
The obstacle is the way. Stillness is the way.
And the newest one is The Right Thing Right Now.
Yeah, I haven't read that yet.
Too. Oh, it's perfect time for right now. So, I love the wisdom that you're sharing, and I'm grateful to have you on the podcast because I really I love having partners like you. And I say partners because I don't see you as a client, because I know that you will reach out to us if you need something else, or if you even need to be connected some other way. That's what we like, is a relationship where you feel trusting with us and you're like, hey, if it's not our lane, we might not do that, but we know somebody that's really great at what you fill in the blank. But we know the things that we're good at, and we like to help in that aspect. And also, I love how you used a lot of different avenues. You have an HR, you have yourself, you have your leadership team. So you brought everybody. This was all hands on deck. And I think that approach was really helpful too, because this is you saying, we're committed to this work. This is not an option. We're doing this work, and it's really given a lot of good results. And I'm not just hearing it from what you're saying. I've heard it from your leadership team. I've heard it from your faculty. I've had people email me. I've had conversations. I've went and spoken in Alaska and done conferences because it was so impactful to them. And not only that, people told me that it helped them in their marriages too. And it's helped them with their relationships with their children. And they start to understand themselves better. This stuff isn't just about your work. All of this is transferable skills that help people be better in their communities. They help them be better in their family lives. So when you invest in your people and give them tools, they're more successful in all areas of their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, when I said life is good if you live in such a way to make it so, as it turns out, these are the things, if you apply, it makes it so.
Right? It does. And I'm living proof. I did not have any of these skills growing up. Like, I literally had to do a complete turnaround, and I'm the first generation college grad, like born to a 16-year-old mom, 8 out of 10 aces. Like, it wasn't no easy road coming from North Idaho. So literally,
statistics are working against you.
Yeah, I should be in jail, but I'm not. I'm here having a podcast talking about leadership because the stuff works. And honestly, if I didn't believe it to be so, I'd still be working in higher ed.
Yeah.
I'm doing this now because I know it works, and I know it works in your personal relationship, and I know it works in your. But it takes a village to do it. It can't just be, like you said. It's not just you. It takes a team that's willing to put in the work, and they're ready. They've had enough pain that they're ready for the change, or they just see the time is now to,
the time
we
is
can't stay
now.
here. We can't stay here.
Yeah, we can't stay here. And it takes if you haven't watched that, viewers, you should go watch that. It really is. I mean, it's kind of cheesy in some ways, but it is so simple.
Yeah.
So many life lessons in there, but that one in particular is pretty impactful. Like, where you're at now, if this is not where you want to be, you can move away from there. Why stay here? Don't. And I think sometimes we have to remind each other. I still remind them, like, we don't have to go back. Now I have the conversation like, why are we going back to that space? We left there already. We don't need to go back.
Yeah.
We've already been there. We know that that's not where we're productive. Let's just keep moving in the direction we're going. Yeah, you're right. Where we're at right now isn't exactly perfect, but it is in the right direction. So let's keep moving that way. I think that helps too. The thing you made me think of, like using other people. That was one of the things we had to admit as an organization. We were trying to be, like HR people and general counsel and the financial aid people. And we were trying to solve everybody's problems and be everything all at once. And we have to say to ourselves, no, we're a college of pharmacy. We have a human resources. Let them be that. Let's stop recreating those kinds of systems. We don't do it well anyways. And it kind of offloads the work and the pressure. And, and people will tell you, that as we engage human resources and general counsel to do their work, they're very appreciative that we're recognizing they are the experts and we trust them to help us. And we just create a pathway for us to then meet regularly, not just when we're having problems.
Yes.
Build social capital so that we have an existing relationship so we understand each other. When times are good, great. When times are bad, we're even that much more helpful to each other because we understand each other. Like, that's been really powerful too in the organization, that we've been able to connect to the full organization and become more a part of the ISU community by engaging those units that are there to help us. And they do help us. They've been amazing.
Yeah. And I suspect you'll be a help to many, because as soon as they hear this podcast, they're going to be like, Tom, I need your help.
Yeah, Tom doesn't have all the answers.
And he doesn't got a lot of time either, but
yeah, well, yeah.
Well, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you for being on or listening to the Leader U podcast. If you found this information useful, please share it. Please like and subscribe. It helps us to know that we're putting meaningful work out into the universe, and we love having more followers. So thank you so much.